Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. Sorry I'm a bit late, but trying to get all these pieces together because, I had to process an interview, a good interview. This guy represents what we are supposed to be looking for in district-specific Democrats, district-specific candidates. I have a good one here for you that I hope others would see in guys like him what I see, including in those that we have running here in Texas. We have to vote and get good, moral, progressive leadership that are able to point out to all constituents that they are there to serve them. They are there to serve them. They are the most important things. Anyway, folks, how are you doing? I trust all is okay. Have you all recovered? For those of you who watched Trump's speech, by the way, I watched it so that you all didn't have to, okay? But I know some of you did because you told me so. That was likely the most pathetic thing I have ever seen. And we've seen a whole lot of pathetic things, guys. But when you have lying from the inception, how the hell can people decide what's going on? That was one of the most horrendous speeches I've ever heard. The one good thing is that he kept himself on the teleprompter. Oh, yep, he read the teleprompter, and he did a good job reading the teleprompter. Wow. But my God, it was terrible. So I think after I salute all you beautiful people, that is where we're going to start. But as you can see right now, I'm still loading up all my files here. Well, it's two videos that I have, one fairly long, one fairly short. But let me go ahead and make sure I have all the connections made. And I think I will be almost done with all my connections. And I think everything is connected well. All right, here we go. Welcome aboard, El Senor. Who was the first one in today? First one in the house today was Bruce Pollard. Says howdy, y'all. Then followed by Eric Hayes in Kingwood, Atascocita. Rather, Kingwood, Atascocita for Hayes. Bruce Pollard in Kingwood. We have also Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. He says, Eric could ask Google a question. Why is the EV plant closing? Overcapacity. European automakers, including Volkswagen and Stellantis, are facing issues with manufacturing overcapacity. All right. We also have in here Paul Fleminger. Let's see. We also have May Wood from Long Beach, California. E2247 says, block the bombs action items. Call U.S. representative to co-sponsor H.R. 2411, UNRWA Funded Emergency Restoration Act of 2025, H.R. 3565, that's House resolution, and to limit transfer of defense articles of defense to Israel. All right, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas is in. Let's see what else we've got here. Eric, why do you feel a necessity to defend everything Donald Trump does, even as he despises you? I mean, he all but says he despises guys like you, Eric, but you love him. What is the syndrome again? Stockholm Syndrome? I think that's what it's called, right, guys? Stockholm Syndrome? All right. Repeating once, Egberto, just one for the screen today. There's something in the background. I can't tell if it's music too low. Please check before you play. All right, Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Welcome aboard. And we got Lynette. How are you doing, Lynette? Laura, how are you doing, Laura? Asterion, Mr. Ed 25, welcome aboard. And you guys are not putting the city and state, guys. I love to call out the city and state so people can see we're all over the country. Susan Jagoda, welcome aboard, Susan. Judy as well. Muzin on It's Tristan Times, welcome aboard. Priscilla Barnes Davis, Karen Andrews, Wendell M. Welcome all to the program. We're going to have a great show for you today. All right, Venezuela under threat. Eyewitness reports register for Zoom. Thank you for that. If we go into Venezuela, we'll regret it. Cindy is from New Hampshire. So we have on the East Coast, we got New Hampshire, we've got Georgia, we've got North Carolina, we've got the Midwest as well. We also got the west side of town. We're west side of the country. Great, great, great. All right, let's get busy. As you all know, that Donald Trump gave a hell of a speech yesterday, and he wanted everybody to know that your eyes are lying to you. The economy is not in shambles as you may think it is. It is actually pretty good. Why? Because I say the economy is good. In as much as even my math is off. I mean, you have elected MAGA. You have elected a person that think they can drop the price of drugs by 500 or 600%. You know what? Any day they drop drugs by 500 or 600%, I'm going to purposefully get sick so that they can prescribe me as much penicillin and anything else. Because for every $50 dose of penicillin, I will get $250 or $300. That's not I pay for it; they'll pay me that. That's how uneducated your president is. And he believes that you are just like him. That's why he said that's who he likes. He's content to have, not my words, his word. He wants stupid people. He wants dumb people, which he says are the ones who follow him. Okay? Who care about him. Now he goes out on the stage and he lies out of his teeth, but he forgets that there are some of us who do something called research. And immediately after the conference, I went ahead and did something very important, and that was I went ahead and fact checked the president. And I just have a short amount of stuff to talk about before I play the video. But he said inflation is stopped and was the worst in 48 years. If he says inflation is stopped, it means inflation is zero. Of course, the inflation rate came out today, 2.7%. He also said inflation was the highest ever in 48 years. In 1920, it was 20%. During the other time, it was 9.1%. No, that's also a lie. He said gasoline prices were at $1.99. Well, you know what? The average price of gasoline is $2.99. So he's lied. He's wrong. His administration secured $18 trillion in investment. No, that's not true at all. Nowhere to be found. Remember what he said with Foxconn? Foxconn was supposed to build, and people were supposed to get jobs. No, it fell through. More Americans are working than ever before. Not true. Not per percentage. Actually, the unemployment rate went up. Claim. Immigration, 25 million migrants. It's a lie, because the best one could come up with was 11 million migrants, but it's worse. As they claimed they wanted to deport criminals. They can't find enough criminals to deport. So they're doing all kinds of things to deport people, including trying to rescind people's citizenship. Amazing the failure that this guy is, right? He's going to give 1,776 war-year dividend. That was already in the big, beautiful bill, right? And it was supposed to be given them over time, a little bit of money over time. But, he wants to make it look like a Christmas gift. So he piled it up all at once, give them $1,776. But guess what? The tariffs are going to eat over $1,776 out of the average American's pocket. So the guy is a liar. Now let's look at let's look at it now from a numerical point of view. Check this out, and then we will take it on el otro lado.
On the deficit, he said that Congress had looted trillions from the Treasury, presumably under the Biden administration. If you look at his one big beautiful bill, it would explode the deficit, take it from maybe $1 trillion to $2 or even $3 trillion. So he's going to be looting the Treasury to a far greater extent than any of them did. He said that we were dead when the economy was dead when he came into power. The fact is the economy will grow more slowly this year than it did in the last year of the Biden administration by a substantial amount. So I don't know how you quite reconcile that. He said wages are up. They are up for people at the top. They're actually down in real terms for people at the bottom. And that's also a contrast to the Biden administration when they were up for everybody. And then on jobs, it was interesting. All he said on jobs was that 100% of jobs were created in the private sector last year because the news on jobs is really pretty bad. So we can move to the charts if you want, and I'll show you what came out this week on unemployment and on job creation. So on unemployment, unemployment rate ticked up to 4.6%, and that's up from 3.4% in April of 2023 under the Biden administration. So you've had unemployment up here, the highest it's been since 2017. If you look at a couple of the subcategories of unemployment, one thing I noticed in these numbers is black unemployment. Black unemployment is historically higher than white unemployment, but it has been spiking up this year to 8.3%. Again, the highest it's been in almost a decade. And this is an interesting phenomenon. And then youth unemployment, we've talked about this before, but the news just keeps getting worse. 10.6% of people 16 to 24 who are looking for jobs are unemployed. Again, the highest in many, many years. So there's nothing really good happening here. And why is that? Because we're not creating that many jobs. We created 64,000 jobs last month, well below the amount you need to keep a growing labor force employed. But even more interestingly, Chairman Jay Powell of the Fed said a week ago that he thinks the jobs numbers in recent months have been overstated by as many as 60,000, not through any kind of malfeasance, but simply quirks of the statistical methods. He's got his own set of economists who look at this thing. If that's true, then the average number of jobs created over that period of time is actually negative. We actually would have lost almost 50,000 jobs a month during this period of time. And you compare that to the pre-COVID average when we were adding 170,000 jobs per year. And so there's really nothing good happening on job creation and therefore on unemployment.
As we look where the jobs have been created, Steve, to your second chart, looking at the healthcare sector leading the way by a pretty big margin.
Yeah, this is also interesting because Trump is trying to bring back the manufacturing industry, the sort of core businesses that he thinks contribute to economic growth. But the picture so far, anyway, is quite different. Healthcare really has been far and away our biggest source of job creation. We do need more healthcare, and therefore we need more people. But these are not manufacturing jobs or jobs that are creating things that people can buy. Social assistance is basically social workers, people that help those in need with whatever their requirements are. An important function of the government, certainly, and of private social agencies, but again, not necessarily at the core of the economy. Leisure and hospitality are actually not the best paying jobs in the world. Local government, interestingly, has increased its number of employees. And perhaps that's partly because when you look down here at where we've lost jobs, the biggest source of lost jobs is the federal government. It's everything that Trump has been doing, DOGE, and so forth. And at the state level, there's also been a small loss of jobs. And manufacturing, which, as I've said, and as everybody knows, is at the core of the Trump economic program, lost 73,000 jobs this year, as did the energy industry, another industry that is at the core of Trump's agenda, lost 17,000 jobs. So not just the total job numbers aren't great, but when you look inside of it, the categories in which we're creating jobs are perhaps not the ones that Trump himself says are important to him.
A little bit of hope in your third chart, Steve. Yes, there's current pain, long-term unemployment. That number is not good, but where are you seeing green shoots that might make people a little more optimistic about job prospects? Yeah,
as you said, Willie, another thing we should point out is that the long-term unemployment, people who've been unemployed for 26 weeks or more, is up to 24%. again, the highest it's been in many, many years. And so there is a lot of despair out there, and a lot of people talk about artificial intelligence and whether that's going to destroy jobs and whether this unemployment situation will continue indefinitely. It is a tough job market, as I showed you, for young people.
All of our country's problems from
Now, so as you see, Donald Trump has been a complete and entire economic failure, just like he was during his first administration. It is a shame that it took many economists and many others enough time to point out the damage that he did. He tried the tariff stuff back early in his first term, where he increased tariffs on steel. The steel workers, they got about 1,000 or so steel workers, but all the people who use steel for manufacturing went down. So while he gained 1,000 jobs in steel manufacturing, he lost $75,000 on people who needed steel to build their products. So let's be clear here. This guy is a consummate failure at economics because, again, anybody who thinks that one can lower drugs by 600% and that makes mathematical sense cannot, I repeat, cannot be considered a successful business person, because it would mean that they don't understand basic math. This is a guy who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and did a great job losing all his money over and over again. It just shows you that there's a class of people in America that fail, that you can actually move forward on failure, that you can fail your way up. Again, remember, I've always told you that this capitalist structure, you are invited to be a part of it. You are invited to be a part of it. It's by invitation. It's not by merit. It has never been by merit. Things like DEI and affirmative action and these other types of programs are things that try to institute merit into hiring. But these guys that have gone bankrupt, come back, got loans, I mean, that is how it is. He has a failed economy. His lies are very, very discernible, and it is something that we will continue to do. We will continue to expose what he is, expose what he is doing. Now, in the process of exposing what he's doing, it gives us ample opportunities to run candidates in every single district in America, in all 400, what is it? 218 times 2 is 435. In all 436 minus 1. On every 435 districts, we are able to run somebody who will go and hit the pavement and talk to the people where they're at. Before I go there, though, I want to read something from AJ North. Where are you from, AJ North? I like some of your commentary here. AJ North says, he who permits himself to tell a lie once finds it much easier to do it a second and third time till at length it becomes habitual. Thomas Jefferson, letter to Peter Carr from Paris, 19 August 1785. AJ North also says, repetition does not transform a lie into truth. Unfortunately, that was by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, radio address of October 26, 1939. Unfortunately, in our current society of limited reading, where we have a low information system, which is what we try to correct here with independent media, repetition of a lie always or many times turn that lie into a truth. AJ also says, we may have democracy or we may have a great wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we cannot have both. That's an absolute truth. That was Justice Louis Brandeis. And I think we mentioned that in a documentary that we made with Move to Amend called Legalize Democracy. AJ Nord also says, life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts the frets that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Of course, that is by William Shakespeare. I saw one from Paul Fleming says, fact check us falsehood. Quick fact check on the Venezuela stole our oil. Nonsense. Being pushed right out in 1976, Venezuela nationalized the oil industry. I think it was under Carlos Andrés Perez, if I recall correctly. Like many countries did in the 70s. Foreign companies, including the U.S. ones, lost contracts and future profits, not land, not territory, not American soil. They wasn't theft, it was legal nationalization under international law. Of course. America wants which foreign country can come into the oil shales in Colorado or the oil shales in Canada and say, okay, we are going to own this? Nobody does that. They're pulling one over you guys. No, Venezuela oil belongs to Venezuela. Venezuela's resources belong to Venezuela. All right, here we go now. I want to play this. I did an interview today that I found quite interesting and I found quite appealing. It's for a young man running in the 5th congressional district in Washington. These are the types of Democratic progressives that we need, people that are going to work these areas, whether they call themselves red or not. These are people who can win based on their values, based on the values of their district. And it is on us to make sure that they get coverage. It is on us that we make sure to support them however we can, telling people about them. For some of them, they may need a little chunk here or a little chunk there. But again, very important for us to work at the grassroots and move these people forward. It's not going to be top down where the establishment Democratic Party says, you are going to run here. No. You find somebody that has an affinity for his future constituents. Somebody who, irrespective of party, can actually go and have a conversation with these people. And in the Washington District 5, one of our PDR posse members turned me on to this guy. To be sure, Brother Tim turned me on to this young man. And I want you guys to listen to what he represents, and then we'll take it on the other side. It's a substantive interview. Let's get busy and get started now. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host today. I am honored to have somebody special. You know, we've been talking about in every district, we need to run competent people ready to hold the bull by the horns and win. Well, let me just tell you, David Womack. David Womack enters the race for Congress in Washington's 5th district with a record rooted in service, leadership, and accountability. At retired Air Force colonel, he once led medical operations at Fairchild Air Force Base, taking responsibility for the health and readiness of tens of thousands of service members and their families. After uniformed services, he brought that mission home, running a rural hospital and later helping oversee healthcare delivery for more than 100,000 people. Those experiences shaped a worldview centered on dignity, access to care, and an economy that works for working families rather than corporate interests. In this interview, Womack explains why Eastern Washington deserves representation focused on people, not power. How you doing, my dear friend?
I'm doing super, Egberto. How are you today?
I am doing fine. Let me just tell you, I'm just happy that we have real folks making a race competitive in areas that many times people think are restricted to the other side.
Yes.
What specifically within your military and healthcare leadership convinced you that Congress needs somebody like you right now?
Well, I think the military and civilian healthcare work that I've done has really shaped a lot of my worldview and my national view, all the way, from the dynamics that operate in those sorts of environments to the impact it has on real people. I've seen it in patients. I've seen it in staff inside my hospitals. I learned some of my biggest lessons from early in my career when I supervised housekeeping departments, laundry departments, food service operations for hospitals, those sorts of things. And especially in the whole area of healthcare, some of those people were working strictly for health benefits, and they were trapped in their jobs because we offered those in the hospitals and they couldn't get them, or their family couldn't get them elsewhere. So that's really shaped my worldview. But that's not what brought me to this decision. What brought me to this decision was that, several weeks ago, I was so down about what was going on in our country. And it was just, it was really eating at me, and it was starting to get to me and affect me personally. And I thought, I've got to reframe this somehow. I've got to think about this differently. And so I went for a walk in the park, and I'm blessed to have a park very near my house. And as I was walking, I was thinking, okay, how can I think about this differently? And the thought that came to me was that in crisis, there's opportunity. And so I kept walking, thinking, okay, what the heck's the opportunity here? And I started thinking that, the whole MAGA thing is going to end at some point. And we start to, and several weeks ago, when I first started thinking about this, we were starting to see cracks around the edges. And now we're starting to see much bigger cracks amongst MAGA. So either it's going to end because they're going to self-destruct, they're going to eat each other, which they seem to be starting to do. Or, God forbid, I don't wish it on anybody, but Donald Trump won't survive office. Or if we have free and fair elections next November, the House could put a stop to a lot of the madness just by having a blue House. We could throw a wrench in a bunch of the stuff. And then if the people are still as upset as they seem to be getting right now, and there's a really big blue wave in 28, we have the opportunity to get things we've never been able to get before. We could get universal health care. We really could. If we had it and the people stay behind it. We've been working on that since FDR, and we could finally pull that off. And then we could work on having affordable housing. We could put an end to the tariffs. The Constitution gives tariffs to Congress, not to the president. Well, Congress largely ceded a lot of that years ago, but Congress needs to take that back. So I started to have hope in the future and think, okay, this is really cool. And then that was a Saturday morning where I was starting to think this way. And then Sunday evening we went to dinner at our neighbor's house. And we got around to talking about the state of the nation and everything. And I started explaining some of these thoughts I had. And like a bad husband, I hadn't told my wife about these these budding thoughts. And she sat there and she listened. And then the next morning she got up and she looked at me and she said, "So are you ready to run?" And I thought, wow. Okay, so we talked about it for a few days, the pluses and minuses, the other candidates in the race. And I talked to some of the local party leaders here, and I got, really big thumbs up from them. So here I am. And that's kind of the origin story of this run here. And
you would not imagine how much I love your origin story, brother. Let me tell you, especially, I am an activist.
Yes, you are.
I am and I do a lot of writing, but this is not what my first profession was. I was an engineer with a software development company. And like you, this is why your story is so, it touches me so warmly. When I gave up all of that, it was, I had an epiphany just like you did. I sat back and I said, this needs to change. This needs to change. Why isn't somebody doing something about this?
Yeah.
Then I said, if you keep asking why somebody going to do something, when is somebody going to do something about it, then nobody's going to do something about it. Look in the mirror. And that's what you did. And that is the very type of person we need in Congress. Somebody that's going to say, we need these things done. Who's going to do it? Nobody else step up. I'm going to do it. First of all, let me just say one thing, brother. Future Congressman David Womack, that is what we need in Congress. So let me tell you a few things that I learned about your district. Okay. And the reason I want to do this is the following. This district is made for somebody like you. Here it goes. The Medicaid population in your district is about 30%.
Yes.
The SNAP people on SNAP in your district about 16.5%. Medicare in your population about between 18 and 19%. Social Security for those over 65, all on Social Security. Median age 38.9. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. That demographic doesn't fit the big, beautiful bill. Oh. That demographic doesn't fit everything that is happening in Congress right now. You just gave me a narrative. Your narrative, David, was imagine if we get enough of me in Congress, we can have universal health care.
Yes.
We can have all these things. There's not much to say to you, David, other than go to hell and win the thing.
Well, that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and do it. And you talk about some of the unique factors in our district, and another one is the geographic landscape. Our district is huge. We go from Canada to Oregon. That's the borders, north and south. On the east is Idaho, and on the west is kind of the Columbia River. It kind of wiggles the state there a little bit, but it's huge. But it's largely rural. And it's made up of lots of small communities that depend on farming, some on ranching, and up north, they depend on timber. And I will tell you that this administration's actions in our current representatives' inability to stand up with an independent mind and do what's best for the constituents is really, really harming the farmers. The tariffs that this administration put in, it was an immediate hit to our wheat farmers. We grow lots and lots of the world's wheat right here, but they import their fertilizer from Canada. So that was just like an immediate jump in their costs of inputs. And now, that it's been going on for a few months, they're starting to see increases in costs for machinery and parts, which even small family farms have big combines, big pieces of equipment, and that's starting to hit them like crazy. And then, the farmers struggle with the issue of immigration because they depend on a lot of labor from immigrants in our area. And these are often people who they've worked with for years and treat these people like family. And they see the fear in their adopted family members' eyes of what's going on with immigration. So although farmers traditionally vote red, the farm families I've talked to, and I've talked to several around the district in the last few weeks, their response ranges from I'm not real happy with my boy Trump to I am spitting mad, as one of them told me. So I think we have a real opportunity if we focus on those issues and not the labels of the party that we can get some votes that we've traditionally not been able to get. And so in all of my campaign materials, I do not identify myself as a Democrat. Not because I'm afraid of it or ashamed of it or anything like that. I'll happily tell anybody who asks, but I want to talk about the issues and then let them decide without the labels of what's best for them.
Given the history of your district, I think that is a wise move. I mean, people would realize what's in the heart and what's going to make. And you mentioned about the amount of farmers that are out there. The Affordable Care Act, many of them don't know that they are actually on Obamacare. But many of them are because it's given another name. Luckily, however, Washington is one of the states that took the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. So many of these farmers would qualify, depending on the crop yield they had that particular year. They would qualify for some of these subsidies, etc. And in the long run, if you are elected, they will be okay because you will be one vote to support them. There's one thing that I don't think you mentioned, and that is with the angst that we have been given Canada, a lot of tourism that normally comes from Canada into your border cities, border towns, I should say, are affected severely. with the tariff and the angst that Trump is giving them, correct?
Absolutely. Border crossings from Canada are down 25% this year, and those are people that were crossing the border to spend money. I mean, that's what they were doing. They were coming in for tourism, and you talk about border towns, and we don't have a whole lot of really big border towns across the top of our state. It's pristine wilderness up there.
Right.
It's still down 25%. They were coming a little further down into the state. But, I was in Vermont and Plattsburgh, New York earlier in the summer for a little vacation and family thing. And everywhere we went last summer in those towns along the border up there, the businesses were all flying Canadian flags. Some of them in addition to American flags, but some of them just flying Canadian flags. And they had signs out front that said, "We love our Canadian neighbors." And I mean, who could not love Canadians? They're the nicest people in the world,
Yeah.
So at least that's my experience.
Oh, my experience have always been good with Canadians, always. Now, look, the Eastern Washington, where you're located as well, struggles with hospital closures, provider shortages, and rising costs. What concrete federal actions would you prioritize to stabilize and expand rural healthcare to those farmers you spoke to me about, to those loggers you spoke to me about, and many of those others in your vicinity?
So one of the first things that we have to do is we have to do away with the cuts that have been done to Medicaid, and stabilize that, and then work on the restore the subsidies to the Affordable Care Act. Just like you said, that's the immediate short-term plan that we have to do, because all those hospitals out there are nervous. The people are nervous as well. My neighbors, she gets her health care off the Affordable Care Act. She paid $8,500 for her plan this year. She got her bill this week. It is $20,000 for next year. For the exact same plan, exact same benefits. So that's the short term thing we have to do. And then in the long term is universal health care. And yes, that's complicated. Yes, that's a big change from the way American healthcare has been done. But American healthcare, let me tell you, I've lived this system. I know it. It is Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid. And it's time to rip those Band-Aids off and have a rational national healthcare policy. And that's universal healthcare. And then there's a lot of other things we can do as well. We can reform our visa programs for doctors and nurses and professionals who are already trained or who are being trained. This country has a history of nursing shortage, and we've solved it in the past by bringing in bright students from overseas and putting them through nursing school and giving them stipends to live on while they're there. We did that in the 60s and 70s, and it largely helped solve our nursing shortage. Another reason that we have a nursing shortage is because of the pipeline for nurses, nursing schools. They're small, and they have a limited number of enrollment, and it's competitive to get in, which is great. It's competitive to get in because you get generally highly qualified people coming out, but that door needs to be wider. We can support nursing education. We can support more medical education for the allied health professionals as well. So doing the visa piece of that as well, making sure that people, foreign graduates who do come into the country, serve in medically underserved areas, which is a large part of this district as well. And then to help stabilize the hospital on top of the manpower piece of it, most hospitals in a rural area are something called a critical access hospital. And that's a special designation by the federal government that a hospital applies for. And when they get that designation, they sign up for some requirements. But what they get is reimbursed for their cost. They fill out a detailed cost report every year. they get reimbursed for their cost plus 1%. Medicare cost and Medicaid cost plus 1%. Well, you tell me a business that can survive and thrive on a 1% profit margin. In this area, the typical rural hospital, 70% of their population is either Medicare or Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So that means the only profit they might have, the only retained earnings they may have, comes from 30% of their population who's on commercial insurance.
Right.
So you can't give your staff raises. So guess what? Nobody wants to work in these little hospitals. You can't keep them up with the cost of living, and you can't invest in the future with new equipment. So pretty straightforward fix would be, let's make that reasonable. Make it 103, 104%. I mean, that make a huge difference to these hospitals out here and stabilize them.
And it would be a saving. It would be a saving because these people, as opposed to having to travel to the major cities or anything, they can get care locally, and it saves the system altogether. Now, I like what you had to say with regards to making sure you expand the availability of training doctors and nurses here in America with Americans, and where there's a stopgap measure that's needed, where there's already ready-made nurses that can come in, etc., and work in these rural areas. They are there, because I think that is so important. My daughter was in medicine before she got a couple of strokes. And one of the things that she pointed out often was how difficult it was for Americans to be to get a medical degree or to get a nursing degree because of the expense and so forth. And a lot of hospitals believe, well, we can get ready-made nurses that are already trained, ready-made doctors that are already trained. That part that you put in there that says we open the door to train more, we make it more affordable to train more, I think is so important. Now, the middle class in the district faces wage stagnation as well, not only in the medical area, but throughout the district. What kind of plans would you have to attempt to make that better in your district?
So one of the fastest, most effective ways we can address that is to raise the federal minimum wage.
There you go.
Here in Washington, we're blessed that our state legislature has seen to have a minimum wage that's higher than the national one, but it's still not enough. I mean, we need to have a path. I'm not sure exactly where the right number is, but I'm thinking it's north of $20 an hour. Where people can where they can afford an apartment. It's right now in our area, a one bedroom apartment is $17, $18 a month, maybe $2,000.
What town is that, or what city is that?
That's just a little Walla Walla. And,
wow.
It is. And it's worse in Spokane, where it's an urban area. So when you look at somebody making a minimum wage,
you can't,
and in the Starbucks workers are probably a pretty good example of this. Starbucks used to be a really great company to work for. They've been through like 4 CEOs in the last 4 years. And 4 years ago, they negotiated a union contract, and they still don't have one because they've come to an impasse. Starbucks is refusing to put any kind of wage concessions in, any kind of wage. They traditionally paid very well, but the last several years, their raises have been well below the rate of inflation, and they're at risk of losing. I won't call it a living wage, but it was more near a living wage than
many other places.
Right. So that's the biggest one that we could just do right off the bat. And then the rest is, I think the rest is a lot of economic development. That just doesn't happen very much out in rural areas. There's not a lot of coordination amongst some of the government agencies that are charged with this. and we can build on the advantages we have. The people that do move into this district, and there's a fair number of them, and frankly, it's a lot of retirees that move into this district because they're looking for quality of life. I mean, we have a wonderful outdoor life here in the Pacific Northwest, and people respond to that when they have a choice to move into the area. But we need to be able to draw working families into this area as well. We need to have those schools, those affordable places to live, jobs for them to work in. You know, when I was working in healthcare and doing a fair amount of physician recruiting, one of the biggest stumbles we had was when physicians would be all fired up about coming to work in our hospital and in living in our town, and they'd say, "Well, what sort of opportunities do you have for my spouse?" And it was kind of like, "Well, yeah, that's the problem." Yeah.
Well, now, as a retired Air Force colonel, how do you separate genuine national security needs from defense spending that enriches contractors while neglecting veterans and service families? I mean, the contractors are always well funded, veterans, not so much.
Yeah, that's an issue, and the military does depend a lot on federal contractors, and I don't want to bash federal contractors and say that they're all bad, but they're, you know, it's one of the easiest It's one of the easiest ways to solve a problem for the military. You know, the officers are sitting around thinking, okay, how do we solve this problem? And it's, well, let's hire a contractor. That just needs to be really well thought out. And maybe there could be some sort of more congressional oversight over contracts over a certain amount. Maybe that would be a good way to go on something like that. So, yeah.
Well, look, let me tell you, I think we've covered quite a few areas, and we're coming up on time now. So what I always end my interviews with, what should I have asked you that I didn't? And in this section, for all the things that you want to say that I didn't ask, please go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Egberto, for this chance to talk with you and all of your viewers as well. You should have asked me about my values. So I think that's something that's really missing in Congress right now, is people with values and knowing what they stand for. And I don't hear politicians talking about that very much. And I will tell you that my values are integrity, service, and excellence. And my parents taught me to always act with integrity. My faith taught me to serve all. And the Air Force taught me to lead with excellence. So that's what I try to do every day. It's guided my life. And I think those values would be a great thing for Congress to adopt. In fact, all of government. Integrity first, and we're here to serve the American people, and we're going to do it with excellence. You know, one of the things I've always hated is the phrase, "It's close enough for government work." No, nobody in government should say
guilty.
That. Nobody in government should ever say that. You know what they should say instead is, you know what? That's not close enough for government work. You know, we should change the standard there as well. The other thing I want to talk about is how I will work in Congress. And you notice the word I use the word work. Too many politicians talk about, "I'm going to fight for you." Well, you know, fighting is what's got us to where we are today. You know, we elect those politicians, and then they go to Congress, to the other Washington, and they don't fight for us. They fight each other. You know, it's crazy. Fighters create enemies and they leave casualties. You know, I'm not going to fight. I'm going to work, and I'll work with anybody who will roll up their sleeves and work for the people of Eastern Washington and the people of America. I'm going to work there like I worked in the hospitals and healthcare when I was doing that, which is I listen to other people first. I hear what they have to say. We discuss things. We collaborate. We build alliances across ideologies to get to a goal. And I think that can work in Congress. And maybe I'm naive and just a wild-eyed optimist, but I think that's the way to go, because at least what we're doing right now just isn't working. So so that's my that's what you didn't ask me about.
well, let me tell you, I didn't ask it, but rest assured, it was inferred. Because again,
okay.
the answers of everything that you gave, one could infer your values from it. But let me tell you, even better, no, that's not naivete. If more people like you decided I'm going to serve, then we'll get exactly what we deserve, which is good government. We the people, good government. Let me just tell you, David, it has been a pleasure for me to interview you. I really have high hopes that this is the year that many districts like yours will pull it through with good participants who have our well-being at hand right now. So again, I want to, first of all, thank you for wanting to serve. I hope this also encourage others to do exactly what you're doing. So thank you for being on Politics Done Right. So, yeah, that was the conversation. And I really like this guy. I spoke to him about a couple of weeks ago or about 3 weeks ago when he called to tell me that he was going to be running. Again, like I said, Tim Donaghy from the Tim Donaghy Show of past told me about this guy. And he said, this is a guy that we reconnected, grew up with, and he can turn that district. He can turn that district. All right, we only have about 4 minutes left. So, let me go ahead. I think Brother Radnin had a piece that I wanted to play, and I think I have it queued up already. So let's see if I can go ahead and play that out. I'm going to cover my face as we do that. Vamos a comenzar con esto ahorita mismo.
I have a question I'd like to pose. Is there anybody in this room that wants a data center in Stark County? No.
I'm here in rural Northwest Indiana, where residents are fighting back against big tech's data center invasion, in contrast with the Trump administration's ardent commitment to big tech's AI agenda.
It'll be a policy of the United States to do whatever it takes to lead the world in artificial intelligence.
We don't want this. It is not going to benefit us in any way.
To say that this thing is not going to affect your electric bills in any way, shape, or form, you got to be off your rocker.
It's tough enough as it is to live here with the poorest county. So when we add this, there is no more jobs coming with this. Sometimes it's hard to buy a gallon of milk here.
The race to build nuclear weapons almost destroyed us. How do we know that these data centers and AI will not destroy us?
I think we would be better served to be the escape for other communities that put in data centers.
So the room was unified. We had about 225 folks come out, and I'd say a good fifth of the entire room lined up to speak out not only for the data center moratorium, but in favor of a complete countywide ban.
Yes, I am in favor of this moratorium, but more than that, I am in favor of an absolute ban on these data centers. We should laugh in the face of these out-of-touch billionaires who are suggesting this.
Amen. You hear us at the polling places every few years. You need to hear us now. I don't want a moratorium. I want a lifetime ban.
I am in favor of a total ban. Total.
Yeah. I generally want to know, as a board member, why we aren't able to hear your opinion on the data centers.
In fairness to this lady's question, ma'am, my name is Howard Bailey, and I am against data centers.
And Stark County isn't alone. 3 counties in Indiana and several others in Georgia, Missouri, Illinois, and beyond have passed their own moratorium measures halting new data center proposals.
Other counties in Indiana and across the country are hitting pause because they recognize these capacity issues. And that's why this 12-month moratorium is so important. We cannot approve projects we don't have the capacity to oversee.
More perfect union, building power for working people. Now, Radnan, I don't know if I'm going to get into trouble for that background noise. If I do, I'll let you know. But anyway, good piece there. Good piece on data centers. Look, the billionaires, these extractors, that's all they do, right? You know, NIMBY, not in my backyard. Tell them to throw those data centers in the rich communities and to provide the electricity for them. Go ahead and do it within their neighborhoods. Let's see. After all, I bet Bezos isn't going to build it in his community, nor is the who runs Facebook. You know who I'm talking about. So anyhow, anyhow, we are out of time. I was about to say I can take a call, but I can't even take a call right now. It's 4 o'clock. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening. Please don't forget to become a paid subscriber. That is how we continue to do this. And let me tell you what I'm going to be doing going forward. We are going to be finding districts where we have Zuckerberg. Thank you, Cindy. Districts where they're red districts. We get a good Democrat, a good progressive is what I should say, that fits that district. And even though likely the party is going to ignore them, meaning the Democratic Party is going to ignore them, and likewise the mainstream media is going to ignore them, the idea behind what we want to do in independent media, and we're going to have some more meetings on that, is to give these people their free exposure. I repeat, these people don't have money to do what they're going to do. Like the big guys can go to ABC, CBS, and even go to the bigger independent network guys and pay them to get exposure and get interviews. So the small guys like us, we are going to have to look for those districts that don't get coverage, that are currently red. But like I told this guy, I told David, look, when you look at your structure of your district, a working class district, that should not be a red district. David Womack, that is not a red district. That is a district that somebody with your acumen should be able to take. But the Democratic Party is not going to do anything to help you there, likely because that district has not been in Democratic hands, and they have it all partitioned. Let's beat the system at the grassroots, just like we did on Sunday to sanction our mayor here in Houston. Let's show them in these districts that we can win it. And then when we win these districts, to my friends who are saying, how are we going to get Medicare for all? How are we going to get these different policies, family leave? How are we going to get basic income, etc.? We make sure to support these candidates that nobody else is putting into the fold. And then, that was Tom Foley when he was actually the Speaker of the House, AJ North. And here's the other thing. That district got flipped then. It was during the what was it called? The 10 points that they had, the contract on America. That was when he lost the failure. But anyhow, folks, so look, what I want to ask you, so please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, become paid subscribers. That helps us do what we need to do to win, right? Let me put that into the chat right now. That is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Do all that you can to support our network and others like our network. It's a coffee, guys. It's a coffee. Please support us. Tell other people or encourage other people to support what we're doing. And that way, the grassroots, not dependent on corporate dollars, not dependent on dollars from these independent non-governmental organizations that really undertake, coming directly from you. Let's see. Do you remind us when our year is up? Yeah, Suzanne. It automatically goes and inform you about re-upping. And as stated, yes, it's half a coffee. That's right. It's not even a coffee these days with inflation. It's half a coffee. If we can get hundreds, thousands of these types of support, we can do more. And remember, we're going to be out in the field with equipment like I was this morning out with our protesters here in Kingwood. we're going to be out there getting the job done. So please support. Anyway, I got to go. It's 4:04. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.